we got started would be to show you one slide from our recent media consumption research. We just released this a few weeks ago, and this was the UK specific study. And we asked 260 IT buyers. This was just a simple true-false question. I wish vendor sales reps would know more about my company and its unique requirements before they call me. 88% said true. And I don't think that's a surprise to me, and probably not to you in the room. Fran mentioned it earlier about, hey, you downloaded a white paper. You must have a project and want to talk to me for an hour. I mean, that's just not the case. And the reality is your customers, your prospects are getting flooded with calls and emails every single day. And using data is an effective way to lift yourselves above the crowd and get notice. It allows you to personalize the conversation, and it allows you to do what we always try to do, is like target the right buyers with the right content at the right time. We've been saying that for 20 years. One day we'll get there. So with that, I'll lead into the panel. So Claire, you've talked a lot about how keeping an effective partnership with sales has multiple components, and that ranges from the organizational setup, so where do your LDRs sit, to the technology used, and then of course, the relationships you have with sales. So can you talk a little bit about how you see that working and what's important?
Yeah, so I think some of the previous panelists did touch upon this, especially Alan, so I was nodding, going, yeah, I completely agree with you. And ultimately, any business is a sales-driven business. And I have worked in organisations where there's this awful sales and marketing divide. They call us the colouring department. We call them the throw your toys out the cot department. But ultimately, we're all here to make sales. And certainly for marketing to be successful, sales has to be uber successful. So at Dine, in my organisation, I've taken a really active interest in really understanding the whole sales process. So historically, measurement for marketing has always been on pipeline contribution. And that's a lovely stat that we can look at and go, oh, look, we've generated $5 million worth of pipeline this quarter. But it's a kind of vanity statistic. We have to actually look at how those opportunities are moving through the sales process. I think on the other side of it, I have our sales directors saying, I need more ops, I need more leads coming in, I need more shiny new stuff. So I started looking in our CRM actually, and I just thought, I don't think you need new stuff, because I know you have all this stuff stuck in one of the 6 stages of our sales process. And stage 1 to 3 is very, very invisible to the sales organisation, because sales are focused on looking at opportunities from 4 to 6, because they're the ones that are going to drive their number, whether that's monthly, I'll just drop my glasses, whether that's monthly or whether that's quarterly or whether it's annually. So when they come to doing forecasting, they don't look at those top of the funnel opportunities at all. So one of the key things is looking at that data and looking at the value of the opportunities that their reps are holding. I might be saying this cynically, but under the rug, so that it's not on their forecast and they're not focused to push these deals through. We started looking at that. And when we started looking at that, we suddenly started seeing marketing qualified opportunities progressing much further through the process. We've worked very closely with sales management to actually look at some really good cadence so that we have visibility of everything that comes through that pipe. And that has improved not only our closed won business, but also the spread of opportunities through the pipeline. And again, that's great for marketing because we're really closing much more business. It's also not so good for sales reps because they actually have to use the CRM and not be lazy. And a lot of this is just, sales. They don't want to do the admin of moving an op through the stages. But because we're measuring this on a weekly basis, and we're now starting to define the kind of targets of opportunities we should have at each stage, we've made some incredible improvements. I think the other thing to say about this as well is at the top of the kind of marketing funnel, the LDR function, I truly believe that should always report into a marketing role. So our LDR leadership, we have meetings on a regular basis. We tell them exactly what's coming out. I'm also actually responsible for sales and product enablement. So we train them, we give them the documentation they need, we talk to them about email coaching, about phone coaching. Please don't say, you've downloaded our white paper. Please don't say that. Look at the topics, try and have a broader conversation. Know your domain, know your technology. Don't just pick up the phone expecting to sell our product DNS, but actually understand the domain and the environment that you're in as an LDR. And again, by weekly reporting and metrics of how those leads are progressing, and Fran also touched upon it, some of the SLAs we have for how long someone can hold on to a lead for. Again, we've seen absolute massive improvements and a much higher ROI on our marketing investment.
Thank you. I'd be curious, show of hands, how many of you have the LDRs or BDRs or ISRs, whatever the terminology, how many of those sit within marketing? So that's good. I think that's changed a lot in the last 3 or 4 years.
How many sit in sales?
Yeah, good. Rocky, I've been impressed with how involved you are with sales throughout the entire process. I mean, typically when we're doing these panels, we're focused on, you've launched a campaign, how are you working with sales to make it successful? But you actually, before you launch a campaign, you meet with sales to go over all the components and the targets to make sure it aligns with what they know the market cares about. So could you talk a little bit about how you go through that process?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I'd like to think that we do every campaign and run it past sales, but if we did that, I think we'd get nothing out and would have so much opinion that I'd still be working on the first one. So, for example, our HQ's in Barcelona, so we meet every month, every quarter. We'll all sit in a room and we'll all kind of sort of flesh out what we're thinking of doing in the UK, in Germany, in France, wherever you want. Then when we kind of got it, actually, let me go back. So, for example, we did this amazing marketing campaign. We sat there for a day, hashed it all out, thought it was brilliant. Ran it past the sales team really quickly, being like, guys, this is going out. This is 3 bits of content. These are 3 emails. And they were like, this is not what anybody wants. They're like, what exactly are we talking about? We're like, it's obvious. We read it again, and it was just like marketing buzzwords, fluff. We just got so into it. It was just awful. And then within a couple of hours, they're like, why don't we just talk about this and this? We're like, okay. And then instantly you got a campaign that they were behind, they were going to follow up on. It was clear, it was talking to our audience, and it didn't take days, it just took a couple of hours. I mean, we work from home, we're all home workers, so it's a bit difficult. In the office, it used to be really easy. You could go up to them and be like, just let me grab you 5 minutes, what do you think of this? Now it's we have a WhatsApp group, we're all friends, so we can pick up the phone, text each other, being like, send you something in 2 seconds, just have a look at it, kind of thing. And it just makes things so much more clearer, and we've actually seen more open rates, click-throughs, salespeople are more confident following things up because they actually understand what we're sending out, instead of them trying to read it after we've sent it, being like, I don't know what we're doing. And then you kind of look at it yourself and think, yeah, I don't know what we're doing either. Do you know what I mean? It's so easy to kind of get into that trap doing that. And
even with company size targeting, I mean, you mentioned the example of this Netherlands campaign that you were launching.
Actually, it was a tech target content syndication one. So it's kind of the example of not everything, you can't do one thing for everybody. So Netherlands is a small region for me, and for the UK we were targeting 500 plus, 1,000 plus people, companies. We're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But Netherlands, the content syndication just wasn't working, and we were like, I just don't understand. How can this work for the whole of EMEA and not for this one small region? Got on the phone, spoke to the guy, and he was like, actually, you know what? These big companies, I get really nervous with them. I don't think we can do them yet. I was like, what do you mean? The whole company's doing it. He was like, no, if you give me bigger SMBs, I could close those really quickly. And it hit me. The minute we changed it, we changed our whole vertical, sort of stream, whatever, and guess what? Content syndication started working for them. They were getting better leads, they were closing stuff, they were following things up. Whereas the big ones were just sitting there. And it's expensive. I mean, we don't have budget to be chucking away and doing all these big campaigns, but then once you get down to it, you think, right, I've got it, I've spoken to you, I know what's going on. And, we ended up getting training, more salespeople helped him. It just makes sense. Just pre-campaign is so important. It's more important than post-campaign even, I'd say.
Yeah, great. Curious, how many of you work with your sales before the campaign launches, just to get their buy-in? So it's a little less, but that's interesting. It's good feedback. So Alan, could you talk a little bit about, at which point in your process do you transfer prospects to inside sales, and then maybe talk about the mindset of why you've chosen that point?
Honestly, we don't. and the reason why I say we don't is because actually they're part and parcel of the strategy. So, okay. And especially where tech target and the content indication program and priority engine come into play, because they're a known lead. We know what they're talking about. So that pre-qualification has almost gone out the window. So what we do, the numbers are not massive. Whilst it's an expensive program to run and operate, the numbers that are coming through are quite manageable. Mm-hmm. They're not hundreds of thousands of leads or thousands of leads every week. They're 50, 60. You can cope with that kind of number. So to say there's an automatic handover from marketing to inside sales is not true. They're part and parcel of the whole program. As I mentioned before, we have propositions. So we have essentially 5 buckets. That if you sit in the technology area, you're in one of these 5 buckets. So they know what the content is. They know the program. They know what they need to be talking about. And part of our lead nurturing program is all of that data goes into a lead nurturing program initially, because we know what bucket it goes into. There's a target on our inside sales team that actually they have to reach out and have a connect. Even if that connect is, or they no longer work it, that's a connect. It's gone. But in that 21-day cycle, they're still being marketed to. They're being educated on the pain points or the business pain points or technology pain points, depending on their persona. So we're hitting them with what I hope is relevant content. And coming back to what and Bill said earlier about open rates. By doing that, we have a 25% open rate. We have it's 11% click-through rate. They're incredibly high. So as a consequence of that, we actually know who's engaging with us. So in terms of our inside salespeople, actually, and it happened last week, we had a mentoring call with them saying, it's not starting getting a spreadsheet, starting at A and finishing at B. Look at the interactivity with our inside sales team, and see where the interaction is. And within an hour of having that mentor call, I had an email from our inside sales people saying it worked, like magic. It's like, hey, So to say there's a natural handover, there's not, because they're part of that lead nurturing process right from the get go. Yeah. And that's coming back to what Claire was saying. It's the stages 1, 2, and 3 that we're concentrating on, because actually, if you're talking at stage 4, they've done their vendor selection. It's too late. Yeah. You need to be engaged with them a lot sooner.
Thank you, Claire. We've been impressed with how closely you're working with your sales teams in general, and then with Priority Engine. I mentioned we have over 50 customers, and you're in that top group of just how closely aligned you are with sales. And Fran mentioned it earlier about using that data. Can you talk us through a bit of your process? Why you emphasize the use of fresh data? And,
Sure. I think the first thing to say is we've taken a really experimental approach to Priority Engine. So we did a bit of A/B testing. We put some of our leads into Nurture to see how they engaged, and we also started trying this in October with actually forcing the leads and the intelligence through directly to our LDR team. And initially it was just an experiment. We told them to have a conversation. It wasn't a sales pitch, it's just a conversation to look at the topics and companies that these prospects were researching, and just open a conversation with them. And we were surprised how brilliantly that went. I mean, nearly the LDRs just loved the tool. They thought it was going to be an absolute revenue maker for them, for their commission rates, because they had really good engagement. They were really good names, really good companies. But obviously, once you have that call, we needed to be able to follow up in some way, because as Fran said, these people perhaps had never engaged with Dine before. So we have integrated within our CRM a tool which is, it's pretty neat actually. You can build sort of landing pages, but they're personalised landing pages. So it's a really nice template. You can pull in documentation from our document library, and then you can personalise it to prospects or group of prospects.
Individuals?
Yeah. So we ask the LDRs to take that approach, really, have a conversation with them, and if they're interested in these topics, we've got loads of relevant content, personalise these landing pages, send a message to them, and see when they re-engage, and see when they land on the website, and keep warming them up that way, and that seemed to work really, really well. I think the other thing to say about Priority Engine is, from a data perspective, because the LDRs enjoyed working with the tool so much, they were also very good at inputting some of that intelligence into the CRM, so we've got that forever at that stage in time. So as those opportunities progressed, we didn't have to worry about getting Priority Engine out to the sales teams, but the LDRs were actually already recording the topics, the competitors that the prospect was interested in.
Yeah, I think the key point you made earlier is just you're working with the LDRs to train them on the follow-up up front. I mean, we've made jokes, but still most of the lead follow-up is done by you downloaded this asset. Can we have a conversation about your project, when we know that the journey could be, not in your case, maybe most cases 6-9 months. Yeah. So downloading a white paper on month 1 doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to want to have a conversation. So just educating them how to get to the next step without the prospect feeling like you're selling to them.
Absolutely, yeah. So it was that kind of, it's that opener. It was really an outbound sales call. That's actually come through marketing with the opener, and actually marketing sponsored content and tools to enable them to reach out in a more formalised way so we can track it.
Yeah, it's personalisation. I mean, we can all, if we didn't check our emails for the next 4 hours, and then you'd go to your inbox and you would have tons of emails probably from our competitors, and you're going to open the email that's relevant to what you're working on today. And it's just like if you pick up the phone and someone calls you and says, hey, can I talk to you about your next marketing campaign? That's a bit off-putting. You're not going to want to open up and tell them about it. But if you know they're active on a topic and you can provide them with some next step that will help them, I think people are more likely. Rocky, you've worked with sales. You got the campaign set up. So can you talk about how you're working post-campaign once it goes live? Maybe give an overview of how the organization's set up, and then how you're working with them on a weekly basis to ensure that whatever lead source it is, it's being followed up in the best way.
So we're set up, our SDRs sit with, we call them SDRs, everyone calls them different stuff, but yeah, we call them SDRs.
I wish we could standardize that in the industry.
So they sit in marketing. We have a weekly call with myself, 2 other colleagues, and our SDR manager sits with us on that call every week and gives us an update of what's happened last week, the week before. We have reports come out every week. Like you said, it goes through, so what's been going through is things sitting at a certain stage, why are they there? Maybe people on holiday, maybe people there's too much going on. But that also helps us, so I can speak to my SDR and be like, tell me what's going on. And she'll be like, actually, these leads were so hot, I'm still working on them, we're nurturing them, these leads needed more time. Why they're sitting with the inside sales team. So we'll jump and have a conversation with the inside salesperson. And it's like whenever they're free, she can go over, they're all in Barcelona, she can go over and have a chat with them and ask them. They could be either really swamped, on holiday, or it's just not a priority, it's just too small and they're not working on it. So I was like, if it's too small or something like that, bring it back to you. Post-campaign, so back to our content syndication, because we don't use priority just yet, but me and Jackie were working on that. So content syndication, the leads come in and our SDRs don't follow them up straight away. They go through a nurture program, they rank quite low, but the intelligence that has behind them, if it's a certain account, so if it's something like a really big bank, but right guys, send it to the inside salesperson, they've already got this big account list going on, and you're helping them to map it out. But I'd say there's one particular one that we had, and it stuck out because this person went to a partner event, they downloaded so much stuff, and we were like, okay, what's going on? No one wanted to call them because obviously you don't want to say, obviously you download 6 pieces of content. And then they went to their colleagues went to an event, then they did a chat on our website, then they 4 of them downloaded a free trial. We're like, right, someone needs to call these people.
That's a signal.
Yeah, what's going on? And they had this massive project. They weren't ready to speak to anyone, but they're like, we just want to figure out ourselves. And within a couple of weeks, they were ready. And thankfully, to the content we had and the data we had, our SDR knew exactly what they were looking at, what they downloaded. what kind of things I want to, and it kind of mapped it all out for them. I mean, and that closed, and that was a brilliant deal. But I knew that, I mean, it's really hard to say you can track every single lead that comes through because there's tons. But the ones that are like really good, I follow them on, we use Salesforce, so I kind of follow them coming through. I like to just make sure that if there's a campaign, like every now and then look into it, being like, oh, where is it? Is it like the stage 1? Is it stage 0 for us? Because at stage 0, that means the inside salesperson is kind of sitting on it, and they've put it as like for $1, and you're like, really? And you're like, then I was like, oh, but you look at the notes, and you're like, well, you're talking to them. You know it's not $1. Like, why are you doing that to me? Like, that's not fair. I don't do that to you. Like, I'm not gonna be like, this is a really hot one, but I'm gonna save it for when you're nice to me. No, I don't do that. So like, I'm always in touch with them. Like, just tell me just tell me the honest truth. If you want to put it in Salesforce, let me know. Let me know the true value. So when I'm reporting it back and saying, right, we're doing this next bunch of constant indication, and we're doing this, and we're doing this, and we do this, I know I can go internally, especially in the marketing team, being like, this actually is really working. They just haven't done it yet. And by the end of the quarter, we're going to see the values go up and things happen. So it's just, yeah, talking to them, communication's so key, especially after things have happened. And if things don't work, I used to get really defensive of being like, that was a really good campaign. Like, I know it was a good campaign. I wrote it. And then they'd be like, no, it didn't. And then, like, obviously theirs would work because they know what they're talking about. They're living and breathing it. And, like, sometimes I'm not always with a partner. I'm not always on at events. I'm not always talking to people. So, yeah, don't get defensive, but do listen to them because the follow-up is key, and then you kind of know what to do next and stuff. So,
great. Thank you. So I have one more question for Alan, and then we've left about 10 minutes for audience questions. So if you have any, give it some thought. So I think, Alan, simple question. You know, what are the keys to making this work with inside sales teams? And then, you know, I guess what agreement do you have on how they're going to use the insight that you're providing through data? And then what are they expected to report back to you?
I thought it was one question.
Yeah. Easy.
So as with everyone on the panel here, kind of we have a weekly course with them. So I think also kind of I'd hate to be an inside salesperson if I'm truly honest. I think it's probably one of the worst jobs in the world. I couldn't do it, so asking them to do it kind of I think it's a horrible thing to do. So, but it is, isn't it? You know, they're constantly being browbeaten all the time. So the approach that I take is with our inside sales function at the site in Glasgow and in New York, is that part of that weekly meeting is a mentoring meeting as well. It's helping them because they're quite often young graduates, kind of don't really know what's going on in the world, don't really understand what they're talking about. And part of that process is actually nurturing them and getting the best out of them. And to that point, what we do is, yes, we have the very formal agenda, kind of says, where are you with this? And go through the whole process of the buying cycle and saying what numbers, you know, because we need that stuff. Yeah. But actually, if they're not performing, we have to understand why they're not performing. And 9 times out of 10, there's a very, very valid reason why they're not performing. And it's trying to mentor them to get the best out of them, to the point that the way that I structure the marketing team is most organisation charts are top down. That's not the way that I do it. Kind of, you know, mine is the other way up. Is the other way around. So yeah, I do the strategy for my organisation, but actually I'm providing all the marketing function, even though we're part of the same team, is essentially providing them a service to do their job, and that's what I have to remember. So actually, kind of my hierarchy is the other way around. So I'm at the bottom. I'm the foundations of what they're doing. I then have a team that sits above me with people like yourselves. There's James in the room. I've got somebody in Dubai and in the States, helping them do their jobs. There's a team of people helping them do their jobs, and actually then the company sits above us, because if we're not helping them do their jobs, then we're not doing ours. Yeah. So it's a different way of looking at mentoring people and the sales process. So I know it's quite unusual approach to take, but I think it's pretty key. Yeah. So
I was speaking with Claire just this morning, and you know, no matter how great your MarTech stack is, your CRM system, I think the good old-fashioned weekly communication with your SDRs or BDRs is really going to be the thing that propels you from having a decent campaign to an excellent campaign.
it also means they're not scared to talk to you either,
Yeah.
which is also helpful.
Yeah. And you learn a lot too in marketing when you're hearing feedback. I mean, we making the joke about we've created this fluffy campaign, but I mean, marketing's job is to make things pretty and fluffy. But you know, if that isn't resonating with your prospects, it's better to know that up front than a month after the campaign ended and you haven't been able to track any results.